Welcome. Usually Marcy Tyler is your host, and then she brings me in secondly, but Marcy was not able to be with us this week, so I'm going to be hosting on my own. Fingers crossed for me on this. And so welcome to Tremco Live, where we are socially distanced, but technically connected. I think as if you recall from last week, our focus for January is in the theme of what's new, right? It's the new year. Luckily, Marcy decided not to do resolutions and make me make one. So this week, we're going to talk about roofing. And joining us from Tremco Roofing and Building Maintenance is Mike Steele. So Mike, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us sort of your history from when you got out of school to how you got here today.
Well, thank you, Paul, for having me. I appreciate the time. And like you said, we'll talk about the art of roofing innovation. And my background, I began in the roofing industry back in 1994, and I was actually third generation in the roofing industry and on the contracting side. And I worked many years both on the roofing side and also getting into the architectural sheet metal side for about 14, 15 years before joining Tremco. So I started with Tremco in 2010 in the technical group and worked my way up, and I'm currently the Vice President of Product and Technical Solutions. So I'll talk a little bit about what my team does on a regular basis, both on the product side and on the support side.
So Mike, for our audience, for people who have ideas or why don't you or why do you, you're where the buck stops, is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, and we get a lot of ideas from various sources, and always looking for new and great ideas.
Yeah, Marcy and I often comment that the majority of the innovation that we do is driven typically by input from the field, I always find that interesting that that remains so true, Mike.
Well, so many times we work so hard on a project, maybe a new product introduction, and we think we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. But reality is we get a lot of feedback from the design community and the contracting side for improvements, thoughts, ideas, and maybe a whole new product category that we weren't looking at yet. So you never know where the next great idea is going to come from.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, that's the other reason. I know I work a lot with you. We always like to get to field trial as quickly as we can to start getting that feedback from the field and especially from the contractor.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's invaluable to have that type of information and be able to apply it to what we've put out to the market space.
All right, Mike, I know you prepared a few slides to share with us, so why don't you lead us on?
Absolutely. So, to begin the innovation process, there's a few things that we always think about when starting a project. And, the first thing is what are you trying to accomplish? And what you see here are 4 key categories that we look at in every new product development. So the first one's labor efficiency. So, costs are going up in general all across the board, whether it be on raw material side, finished goods, labor, et cetera. So we're always trying to be cognizant of those pieces and how do we make the most out of what we have. And so when we design a new product, we want it to be high quality, but also think about the contractor side with the speed and efficiency of installing those products. And it's a tricky equation there sometimes when you're trying to optimize those 3 pieces, but that's usually the first piece that we look at and think about. From there, we go to unique and superior performance. So we want to have the highest performing product we can create and have in the market space. So we're always looking at how do you take the best polymers, the best raw materials, reduce the fillers, put the best fire packages into it. You want it to hit all the categories as near the top as possible. And part of that is through advanced polymer technology and taking technologies from other industries and adapting them into roofing or modifying things that are out there. We'll talk a little bit later about hybrid technologies So, that might be taking a acrylic and a urethane and creating the best of both worlds there. And then, having your product solve a problem once thought to be impossible. So, we look at, and we'll talk about a little bit, is restoring the unrestorable later on in the presentation. So, how do we provide products that address issues in market spaces that maybe the answers are not there, or not very high performing or all inclusive. And certainly,
I know, Mike, that's a great area. Whenever I hear something's impossible, you've seen my eyes light up, right? Where I'm like, okay, Mike, there's your next challenge.
That's the next path we're going down. Absolutely. And, as part of that innovation process is looking at the products and the projects ahead of us, is making sure that we can adapt it to new construction, restoration, and replacement and recover. So we want to make sure that we're trying to adapt those products across the board so that it's not just in one market space. It's more encompassing for all of our customers. Next slide. So where we'll start is talking about the Bio family of products. So starting back in probably 2014, we began working with bio-based products. And that first product that we came to market with in 2015 was Alphaguard Bio. So it's a 2-part urethane system, which has a 70+% bio content. It's certified through the Bio Preferred program through the USDA. And it's been a real workhorse for us. The places where we can use it, the adaptability of the product has opened up a lot of doors for us. Some of the key pieces you see below there, being very low VOC and ultra low odor, allows us to utilize it in hospitals, schools, and other sensitive areas. And then having a very fast cure time. So, being able to put down a base coat and knowing that within 1 day or much less, it's going to cure up. So, a crew putting down a roofing system, they might put down the base coat at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they know for certain that when they come back the next morning to apply that top coat, that base coat is cured. In other instances, like in restoration, we're able to put down the base coat in the morning and top coat in the afternoon. So it opens up a lot of doors, especially if you're talking about tight timetables, etc. And then, taking that type of backbone and applying it to the Powerplay Endure bioadhesive. So moving into I guess a non-traditional place where you typically see urethane into a ply adhesive, and being able to achieve those same type of results as ultra low odor, ultra fast cure, and getting extremely high wind resistance out of it. The last piece is alpha grade, being able to, it's one of our categories of restoring the unrestorable, of being able to put a restoration coating down over a gravel BUR surface so that we're not filling up landfills with a perfectly good roof that just needs some repairs and then a new surfacing. And it opens up the avenue for us to further restoration down the line and not having to tear that roof off if it's still in good shape.
So, Mike, I noticed, you had mentioned different sort of environments where the ultra low odor and low VOC is key. I think the other trend we've seen, Mike, that really Bio started is the ability to work not on occupied space, right? So I think for so many years, the thinking was we can only do roofing work when the building was unoccupied, and that's becoming more and more difficult for all kinds of reasons. But I think we've seen a dramatic increase in working on what I would call occupied space.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about where we were talking about being able to utilize this in restoration, the other piece of it is new construction. So, if you're adding on to, say, a hospital, all too often you start to do roofing work or other construction work, those air intakes of the existing portion of the building are problematic. And so being able to put down your insulation with no odor products, being able to put down your base ply with no odor products, and then also your top coating being the Alphaguard biosystem, yeah, it opens up a lot of avenues where you can work over an occupied or near an occupied space without fear of shutting down that facility. Next slide. So the next piece I'll talk about is Powerplay Endure membranes. You know, this is a project that took probably a lot longer than any of us thought would. It's a tough problem to solve, and it took a lot of time, patience, chemistry, engineering, and quite a bit of investment in our plants to achieve it. And there's 4 key portions of this. So the first piece is the durability. When you consider an MB roof, modified bitumen roof, you know, they haven't really been changed since the 1970s. You basically have polymer modifications like SBS, SEBS, or SIS. And, you know, most manufacturers have modified the asphalt blend with versions of that in different ratios. And it's largely stayed unchanged throughout the time since 1970s. And so when we looked at how do we bring on the next evolution of MB, the first piece we had to tackle was the asphalt coating. And we were able to come up with a unique blend of not only SBS modifiers and asphalt, but also thermoplastic polyolefin, so TPU, it's a urethane blend, and DuPont alveoli, which you typically hear about DuPont alveoli in single ply membranes. We're able to adapt a version of their alveoli into our asphalt blend. And those give us superior performance and durability, and a highly unique product in the market space. What's really unique about it is how we had to achieve that. So typically when you're putting an asphalt blend on a carrier sheet to make a modified bitumen roll, it's going through what's called an asphalt bath. So it dips through, and then rollers on the other side adjust the thickness of that roll. The problem is how you would put in the modifiers into that asphalt bath. So SBS, SIS, SEBS, they're very easy to blend into the asphalt with rudimentary machinery. In order to blend in a TPU and an alveoli into that asphalt blend, it needs highly sophisticated equipment. So in the lower right, you see a picture that's out of our plant, and that's the homogenizer that takes those polymer modifiers and blends them into the asphalt. And you know, typically when you put polymers into an asphalt bath, you could see a variance of 15, 20, 25%, depending on where that asphalt level is and how much you've run through that bath. With this, we are only able to have a variance of about 1% in that blend, and that's why the homogenizer is so important. It allows us to control that very, very closely and make sure that you know, we have the blend that is perfected for mixing into the asphalt and achieving our goals. So from there, your carrier, we have an anti-wick carrier that we utilize with all of our MBs, and that makes for a better roll when you're looking at cut edges, penetrations, anywhere that it doesn't have a factory edge. It is potential that you can get moisture to wick into the carrier just like any other membrane, and we want to keep that moisture out of there. So we have a proprietary anti-wicking fabric that we use in all of our MBs. From there, we have the granulock surfacing. So one of the issues you have with MBs is you have granules on there that are adhered into that asphalt, and over time, the UV breaks down that surface. You also have erosion by water and wind and people walking across your roof, and you start to lose granules. So what the granulock does is it puts a UV snap cure coating on that surface and locks in those granules so that our granule loss is extremely small. The ASTM standard is 2 grams over each sample of loss, and we're well below 0.05 at this point. So we're losing very few granules over that over that surface and keeps the granules where they need to be on the surface and giving UV protection. And then the last piece is roof ID. So we chip all of our Endure rolls, and that does two things. A, it's traceability. If later down the road we need to get information on that roll, we're able to go back into our system by scanning that chip through the roof system and pulling up all the quality control information. So that allows us to figure out, where have these rolls been used, when was it put down, etc., when was it manufactured, whatnot. And then also for warranty purposes. So it serves us with traceability through the life of the roof.
So Mike, you and I share quite a history on this product over quite a few years. As you mentioned, it was a lot harder than we thought. Probably that manufacturing equipment was about a two-year journey. Why don't you share with the audience what happens when you get your ratio just a fraction off in that equipment and how painful it is?
Yeah, so like I said before, you have about a 1% variance with the blend. So all of that equipment you see there in the picture, there's 4 hoppers overhead, and then they feed through those tubes and get pumped into the asphalt kind of to the left of where that is. So if you go outside of that 1%, that entire system ends up where it's basically completely clogged, and you have to take it apart and blast it out with super high pressure water. And you're talking about having the plant down for 2, 3, 4 days before you can get all of that cleaned out and put back together. So not only is it timing, but then also the cost and expense of doing that, both on lost materials and our crews pulling that all apart and refurbishing everything. So it's very costly in a few different ways, and certainly something that we need to be cognizant of as we're putting the blend together.
Yeah, I know more than a few times, Mike, I asked you how many more times you were going to do that, and your answer was, I don't know.
Well, knock on wood, we've been good since getting out of those trials, so we'll continue down that path.
Well, I appreciate your persistence. All right, next slide.
Absolutely. So we'll talk about safety and sensor products. So what you see here, the yellow railings, those are our fiberglass reinforced plastics safety railings. And why this is so unique is it's a collaboration between Tremco and a few other RPM companies, Fibergrate and Carboline, where Fibergrate puts together the fiberglass componentry and Carboline's coatings on that for long-term stability. What you see in that lower picture, lower right, is galvanized steel cut from one of our competitors and aged and weathered in our salt spray unit. And then the lower picture right below that one is 5-year of a competitor FRP. So that's what happens with a fiberglass reinforced plastic when it doesn't have a superior coating on it. The pictures to the right of that, the upper one is a virgin piece, so brand new out of the warehouse. And the one below that, we actually took off of, I believe, as an oil rig after about 23 years of service. And as you can see, it is still very bright yellow and in great shape. And part of the problem with not having a great coating on fiberglass is you start to get the splintering and shattering if it's not protected from UV, and that's what happens with lesser products. The other pieces to really consider when using FRP over a metallic product is the electrical and thermal stability or non-conductivity of it. So being able to put down in a harsh environment, know it's going to perform, and not have to worry about corrosion or thermal or electric shock is important, especially within facilities. The other piece we'll talk about a little bit is Novi sensor technology. So Novi is our sensor and software platform, and we have it under the safety category for a few reasons. So you see there in the upper middle picture is one of our sensors called a smart drain, and its purpose is to let the customer know and our internal staff if a drain is plugged. So that's two things you're getting an alert on. You're getting an alert on you need maintenance, someone to go up and clean your drains out. But then also you're being alerted to a potential hazard, which would be a buildup of water and excess weight on your roof that could cause a cave-in. So it's really important to know what's going on with your drains, making sure they're properly maintained, and not putting your facilities or people in harm's way. So that's the first piece in our sensor technology. We'll be building out a complete platform. There's some things that are underway with having sensors to alert you if someone has accessed your rooftop. And then also, for snow buildup on a roof. When you get into the northern climates, especially in Canada, you're not talking about inches of snow anymore like we're typically talking about in Cleveland, Ohio, but you're talking and measuring in feet of snow, which adds tremendous weight on top of your roof, and you got to make sure that you're staying on top of it and not having a potential cave-in.
And Mike, I think one other thing to mention, a lot of times we see customers very aggressively take a move towards safety after an incident. And one of the things we're trying to create a lot more mind share about is to have the new roofing work done on a new building with the safety systems in place right out of the start rather than react.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It protects the customer and everyone who comes in contact with a rooftop over the years. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we really take a lot of pride in protecting then all the trades that are up on the roof, not just ourselves as the roofer.
Yeah, you think about it, most of the trades that go up there aren't even roofers. You think about all your HVAC workers that are up there sometimes annually. There's a lot of people that get on your roof that you may not be thinking about.
Yeah. All right.
Next slide. The next one we'll talk about is Alphaguard Fclo. It's a Puma technology, and what makes it really unique is it's polyurethane and methacrylate. So it does two things. It has polyurethane for the high flexibility and the MMA side for the extreme durability. And it allows us to do very extreme applications like you see there at a helipad, but then also in extreme weather. So being able to install a product that can cure within an hour at temperatures down to -20, it's pretty extreme. And I don't know many workers that want to be out there in that type of atmosphere, but this product can do that. What makes our Fclo unique is that it's a single coat application. So there is not a base coat and top coat. It's one liquid membrane that both provides your base product and your UV fire protection, et cetera, that will endure the weathering over 20, 30 plus years. It makes it much more applicator friendly.
Yeah, I like your helipad there because there's a version of this that is an extraordinarily high wear traffic coating. So for those in the audience that have worked on helipads, a typical urethane coating might get you through 3 to 6 months, and even after those first helicopter skids get in there and give you a lot of torque, they get chewed up pretty readily. The Puma is going to last you a good 10 to 20 years. It's an incredibly high wear capability for those applications. Mike, we've got customers that now have parking garages like over their ERs and stuff like that for hospitals. So we're seeing a lot of interest in those type of applications where you need both a quote roof or waterproofing layer, but you need something that's vehicular capable.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I would say, from a standpoint of a lot of helipads are on top of rooftops, and you want to make sure that you have the best protection out there you can, especially since you're considering it's some type of hospital environment underneath. So absolutely. Next slide. So, we talked about a little bit in the beginning was restore the unrestorable. And I took snapshots of a few things here just to kind of highlight some of what we're talking about. So shingle restoration, there are not a lot of options out there when you talk about a shingle restoration. And typically, if your shingle is starting to fail, whether the granules are coming off, you're getting curling and certainly leaks into the building, you have one of two options. You're either going to tear it off and replace it, or you're going to overlay it with another layer of shingles. This unique opportunity gives us the ability to go in and either use our shingle cleaner and coating system on a aged, previously installed shingle roof, or from scratch. We can install this on a brand new roof and provide years of protection and warranty that restoration, far beyond what the shingle warranty will cover. Below that is roof drying technology. So being able to go into a flat commercial roof and dry out the componentry underneath that weatherproofing membrane. So we have the ability to go in with partnership with another RPM company, Legend Brands, and adapt their technology into roofing to dry out the insulation componentry and not have to tear out and replace and put that insulation and other componentry into the landfills. So it helps on the environmental side, but then it also helps from the disruption side. So if you have sensitive manufacturing below or office space, residential, etc., you can dry that roof out and do a restoration without disruption below that roofing system. Overlay restoration. So that's a picture of the Puerto Rico Convention Center. And all of the joints in that what looks like to be a giant skylight is actually a roofing system over top of part of the roof over the occupied space. And those mullions were leaking. And we were able to go in with an overlay system. And I don't know, Paul, we saved tons of time and money for the convention center and was able to put them in a watertight scenario before hurricane season.
Yeah, that building had leaked from the day it was built, and they had no path to solving it with what we call a wet sealant. So this was truly magic for them.
Absolutely. The other magic piece is the facade restoration. So you think about your four sides of the building where you have leaking and failing window systems. This same type of technology can be applied to windows. And I think this is a particular case where we saved them somewhere around 8 to 12 months. And I think it was a little over $1 million or $2 million in savings with going with a facade restoration. And the owners couldn't be happier. And that was a condo complex, and it saved everyone from a lot of headaches.
Yeah, I think the numbers were a little more spectacular than that, Mike. I think they were looking at a $15 million replacement, and we came in at less than $1 million.
I had my decimal point in the wrong place. So below that, you'll see the expansion joint restoration. So with Will Seal, they have excellent expansion joints for long-term solutions for extreme harsh conditions. We're also taking that technology into the roofing platform. Building a long-term extreme wear expansion joint in roofing is typically pretty labor intensive. This makes it a lot easier, and taking their proven technology and adapting it to the roof is something we've been working on since mid last year. We launched out the first phase in June, and now we're working on what those technological advancements look like in furthering that expansion joint for roofing. The next one is HVAC and indoor air quality. So this is kind of a two-part, talking about Pure Air and also Can-Am. So Pure Air is a partner of ours, and they do HVAC restoration, indoor air quality restoration, and then Can-Am, being able to look at a facility and figuring out, where are there air leaks, where are they losing energy efficiencies, and be able to do the calculations and figure out how do we restore that building to superior indoor air quality, and for not only the air you're breathing, but also just the environment that your workers are sitting in and dealing with on a daily basis. So I don't know if you want to add something else to that, Paul, but there's a lot that goes into those pieces.
No, this is very exciting for us, Mike, because Pure Air's been doing this for quite a while, but we spend so much time up on these roofs, Mike, right, that we come by this equipment all the time, and we're getting a lot of excitement out in the industry that this is both possible to not have the disruption, not have the significant capital expense, and to restore their air handlers and their HVAC equipment to a like new condition with a very, very modest outlay. So that's very, very exciting. What's your last one up there, Mike?
Last one's diagnostics. So looking at, how do you figure out whether or not your roof is in a restorable condition? That's where we spend a lot of time and effort and money in making sure that we have the ability for our customers, our design professionals, architects, everyone that we work with on these roofing projects, that we have the best diagnostic equipment, anything from mid-wave IR cameras to high density moisture meters. We want to make sure that we have the full gambit covered and we can provide the best view of what's going on below that membrane for our customers.
Yeah, Mike, I know we're pretty unique. Not a lot of folks have nuclear equipment, and we feel pretty strongly that that's an important part of the diagnostic toolkit that we like to support all our partners with. Can you explain that for a second?
Yeah, so that's the high density moisture meter, or also called a nuke scan. There's two pieces to it. It's extremely expensive, also for the equipment, but also for the regulatory portion. So you have to have trained technicians that are certified to handle nuclear products, and then you have to have special storage locations and handling for these nuclear pieces. So it's actually a federal regulated piece of equipment that you just can't go buy at Home Depot and start using. So it's a big deal, and we've invested a lot of time, money, and resources into it to make sure that we can bring the very best to our customers.
Yeah, I know there's important information we can't get without that, and I'm glad to see that we made such a commitment to it. All right, Mike, why don't you wrap us up with a little bit of thinking. If we have you on a year or two from now, what might you be talking to us about?
Yeah, so a few things we're working on would be high thermal resistance and thermal harmony, and high R value. So it focuses a lot on not only the insulation packages you're using and how they work amongst themselves, but also how do they work with the roofing membranes over top. So that harmony piece has a lot to do with extreme testing and some specialized lab equipment that we developed with some engineering firms to have in our lab to be able to test and discover things that I believe were only kind of a gut feel at the time, and we now have comprehensive data to say that we know how these are working together or not working together.
Yeah, I know that, Mike. I think it's obvious, but it's been a long journey for us. If we can develop a roofing system that's 100% thermally stable, it's going to last a lot longer. So
absolutely,
so that's quite a journey you're on with your team there. What's the next one?
Hybrid technologies and extreme ponded water resistance. So it has a lot to do with, we talked in the beginning about acrylics and polyurethanes. It goes much beyond that, is, being able to take the best characteristics of two different products and blend them together to get a superior product. And, we all know that on the roof side that ponded water is always an issue, and we're always trying to figure out ways to solve that with technology and chemistry, so that even if there is ponding water, it won't be a devastating effect for the roof and its longevity.
Yeah, the next one over, Mike, the RISE program, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's a little different. We've been talking a lot about products, and this has to do with education. So we've partnered with University of Akron, and the idea is that we have apprenticeship and construction management programs online, and there are a lot of benefits to that program. I've included Amy Grant's information over there to the left, and you can reach out and get more details. But it's all about educating others in the construction profession and bringing forth more people into our industry.
Yeah, Mike, it's I believe I'm correct, it's the first 4-year degreed online construction management program anywhere, and there's also a 2-year component to it as well. So we're really thankful for the University of Akron partnering with us to do that and making education accessible to everybody on our team in that online format, of course, especially in today's distanced environment.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah,
All
we're
right.
well ahead of the curve before we knew that we had to be.
Yeah. What's your last one there? What's panelization mean?
Panelization has a lot to do with retrofitting and also new construction in a panel format. So being able to install panels of either wall or roof assemblies that reduce labor and cost and allow the construction crews to come in and erect buildings and get them into a watertight position a lot faster. A lot of times it's tied to extreme energy efficiencies, being able to control the quality in a manufacturing location and install them with comparatively minimal effort in the field. So that's really what it's all about, is controlling quality and being able to deliver a more finished product to the end user.
Well, Mike, we've long seen that trend on the facades. I look forward to you leading that up on the roof. So, Mike, thanks so much for you joining us today, and look forward to the next time you're with us, because it sure seems like you got a lot going on. And
absolutely, my pleasure.
And with that, we'll see everybody next week. Marcy will be back with us, and pray for us not too much snow here. We see it coming down in Cleveland. Don't know about where you are. And with that, I'll see you next week. Be safe.